Hello, I'm Suzanne James. Welcome to Nightshift, the podcast where we talk about all things voluntary assisted dying. Please note this is not a substitute for medical advice, and if it raises any concerns for you, please consult your doctor or the relevant support service. We're very pleased to be joined today by a very special guest, Jan Willis from New South Wales. Jan has unfortunately been diagnosed with motor neurone disease and has recently obtained final approval to use voluntary assisted dying. Jan is also a retired palliative care nurse with 30 plus years experience, and she has courageously agreed to talk to us today and speak to us about her VAD journey to help raise awareness and support others with terminal illness. She joins us now. Jan, welcome.
Thank you, Suzanne. It's nice to be here.
Now let's start with the diagnosis. When were you first diagnosed with motor neurone disease, and what did they tell you about its progression and likely time frame?
I was first diagnosed in March. I first saw the neurologist mid-February. I had various scans, ultrasounds, blood tests, and I received my diagnosis in February, mid-February.
So you began the application process for voluntary assisted dying in March after Googling it. You said the day
Yes.
you had
Yeah.
your diagnosis confirmed.
Yes.
Just noting for procedural purposes that you're in New South Wales, what steps did you then have to go through in terms of appointments and specialist visits, and how long did it take from initial application to final approval for VAD?
Well, it only took 3 months from my first phone call to the approval. I made my first phone call in March as soon as I received my confirmed diagnosis. I just Googled VAD in New South Wales, and I had my first VAD appointment on the it was the
16th of April, you had your first VAD
3rd
appointment?
of April, sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah. I met my VAD doctor and my VAD CNC who will be coordinating my care. On May the 3rd, I had an appointment with the second VAD doctor in Tamworth. We were there for an appointment, and she interviewed me as well. The interviews are just to ensure that I understand what that is, and I have sound mind, and I have a terminal disease. So May 3rd, I had my second VAD appointment, and then on May the 13th, I met with my first VAD doctor, Dr. K, and my CNC at the MPS where I want to die. We had another appointment where they went through the process of the actual dying process and explained the medications and gave me the choice of IV medication or medication through the peg. IV medication is quicker, so I chose that. On May the 20th, my case went to the VAD board, and on May the 21st, I received a phone call from my CNC to say that I was improved. So it took 3 months from my first phone call till my approval.
Now, the team came up from the Hunter, did they not, from Newcastle, to see you during this process?
They did. The first time I met with Dr. K and CNCA, I'm just using their initials, I was in Tamworth for an appointment, and they came up from Newcastle to Tamworth to meet with me. On their second visit, we met at the MPS where I'm going to die, or I'm planning on dying. And they travelled from John Hunter in Newcastle up to northern New South Wales to the MPS to meet me.
Now, you've said that you felt very well supported during this entire process. Talk to us about that and how personally supportive you found it with the teams working with voluntary assisted dying application.
I couldn't have asked for more. They were very professional, but they met me very warmly, and they were ready to answer questions of me. They also included my husband, and they made inquiries about my children to see that my family were on board and were not coercing me. They allowed Peter, my husband, to answer questions or ask questions about it. And they included him in the conversations.
Now, in relation to the MPS, where you're planning to go for the end of your life, you were the first person they'd ever had requests to use VAD there. Is that right? Tell us about that.
That's correct. In my professional life, I've been out to do consultations at this MPS. So I'm aware that it is a really beautiful place. When I first contacted the manager to just check that I could do the VAD there, she wasn't certain, but she made phone calls and got back to me the next day just to say that everything would be fine. They could care for me and cater for my needs.
So now that you have all those plans in place, and it sounds like you're very well organised, as you would expect a former nurse to be, what's it like now that your MND is getting worse and you know that you can access VAD when the time comes? How much of a relief is that, Jan, and how does it help the quality of time you've got left with your family?
Well, for me, once I was approved, my nurse and my doctor said that I won't hear from them until I contact them. I can contact them whenever I like if I have a question, but I don't. So they said they will hear from me when I'm ready to die. And to me, it is such a relief. I'm not frightened of dying with MND. I feel that my dying will be peaceful. And it will happen when I'm ready. I'm not feeling pressured to do anything. I'm just going to enjoy what life I've got left with my family. I think too, this process of voluntary assisted dying has opened the family to conversations about death and dying. They've always been very accepting and not frightened of death and dying. But they've been able to ask or talk to me about it and what their expectations and desires are as far as caring for me and my dying.
In your career as a palliative care nurse, you must have seen a lot of death and dying and some terrible deaths as well as good ones. Have you always been a supporter of voluntary assisted dying?
No, not at all. When I was nursing in the palliative care room, in the palliative care role, I felt that with good palliative care, voluntary assisted dying wasn't needed. But when clients ask me about voluntary assisted dying, I'd say, look, I haven't got the resources to help you there, but just Google it, find out about it, and I'll support you with whatever. I had a lot of patients, including my dad, that would beg for it all to be over, even if they couldn't vocalise it. You could see it, they signal they just want it over. And my dad used to often say in his last few weeks, I just wish I could flick a switch. So, yeah, I think there's a definite place for it.
So when you were diagnosed with MND, you've obviously realised the true value of it from personal experience, and it's obviously helping a lot of people that you're talking about it now. So after everything you've been through, Jan, what would you say to people who still oppose VAD despite the program's proven track record?
All I can really say is that the care you receive from the VAD team is exceptional. They offer grief assistance. They phone the immediate family to offer grief support and counselling. I'm amazed at how easy it has been. I don't feel pressured in either way. As they say to me, I won't hear from them until I contact them and say I'm ready to die. And then they'll come up to my little MPS out in the middle of the Australian bush and they will give me the drugs to enable me to die peacefully.
That's a wonderful thing, isn't it? Because many people get gravely ill at home, families unable to cope, they get carted off to hospital in an ambulance and often die in the most dreadful ways. So it really shows the value of VAD and for planning, and it's great that the multipurpose centre is so willing to facilitate that.
Oh, they've been wonderful. And I've also seen people dying in hospital, and that can be such a traumatic experience. The noise, the machines, the monitors, all that stuff. It would just be so traumatic when you're on your deathbed in the hospital. And often the nursing and medical staff just don't have the time or the skills to counsel and care for people while they are dying, actually dying. So, yeah.
There's now very good infrastructure in New South Wales Health particularly. They have an excellent New South Wales Health Department website that it sets out VAD and explains the intake service and how you can contact them. I understand from our previous discussions, Jan, that the majority of this has also been covered under Medicare, as it would be with normal medical care. Is that correct?
VAD hasn't cost me anything. It's covered by Medicare. I haven't even, apart from signing paperwork, I haven't signed Medicare forms or anything like that. It's all just covered.
Yeah, the team takes very good care of the application, don't they?
Oh, they've been just so caring, and it's not been a drama. You know, they've just been supportive all the way.
And I'd just like to note for listeners that not only has the Health Department in every state and soon the ACT as well got excellent infrastructure, Griefline Australia has also now opened a VAD specific service for yourself or VAD applicants or members of the family impacted specifically by voluntary assisted dying. Jan, thank you so much for sharing your story and your journey with us today. We wish you and your family the best of luck.
Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you for giving me this platform to share my story.
Hopefully we'll be able to speak to you again.
Yes, by all means.
That was Jan Willis from New South Wales. She's a motor neurone disease sufferer who was diagnosed back in February, March and has been approved for voluntary assisted dying. She's very kindly agreed to share her story with us today. And we thank Jan for her courage.
Before you go, Suzanne, I no longer feel like I'm suffering from MND. I feel that my MND is just part of my life journey, and I can flick the switch whenever I want to.
So that's a big relief, isn't it?
Oh, golly, yes.
Rather than the open-ended suffering and not knowing how it's going to end or where you might even end up. It shows the true value of voluntary assisted dying. Thank you so much,
Definitely.
Jan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jan Willis from New South Wales. You've been listening to Night Shift. I'm Suzanne James. We'll see you next time.